Hey you guys, it's Sally here with Iron Orchid Designs, and we're here to show you a quick and easy tutorial on a mason jar that has a vintage vibe that anyone on your holiday list will be super excited to get. So let's get started because I'm really excited about this one. I like that. Okay, so you just want to take your paper clay and knead it till it's soft, but don't over knead it. You don't want it sticky. Just until it's nice and soft, okay? And you just roll it out. It's just like when you were a kid and playing with Play-Doh, except for you get really awesome projects when you're done that you get to keep. You don't have to put it back in the Play-Doh jar. Okay. Yeah, see, it didn't need quite that much. And that's okay. It goes right back in the bag. Okay. Okay, so you want to pull the clay off. Just like so. There are a lot of tutorials on YouTube for how to use our paper clay and our molds that go into more detail, so be sure to check those out. See how we're getting this nice clean edge, and if you get any scraggles like that, you just want to pull them back in. Okay, you want a flat, the back surface, this to be flat, and I'll show you how we use our scraper for that, okay? This is not ideal because of the way I have to hold it in my hand, but like I said, we're gonna kind of make it work. Alright, so that's just gonna ensure that we have a nice flat back so that it adheres to our project. Alright. And then for this project, I'm going to take it out immediately because I need it to form to a non-flat surface, the jar. However, you can also let them dry in the molds. Now, one thing I want to mention is that the nature of paper clay is that when it dries, it may warp a little and it may crack. But that's just the nature of that type of clay, and it really adds to the beauty of the project a lot of times. These molds can actually work with any different type of medium. They're actually silicone and food safe, so you can even bake with them. But we recommend, of course, getting a different set to bake with than you're using for your crafts. But my point in saying that is that there are different types of mediums that are best for different projects. For this project, I wanted paper clay, and like I said, the little bit of warping and cracking isn't going to bother me, so I went with that. Okay, so you can see here I have my mason jar. Okay, now because this is not a flat surface and I want my label, oh gosh, this is going to be really pretty. I want my label, I'm getting excited. Do you guys do that? When you're making a craft, you just kind of get excited. Oh, I'm getting excited. This is going to be a really, really pretty gift when it's done. Okay. All right, so that's how I want it. And I'm being careful not to press because we want to keep that beautiful impression in all of the detail. So I'm not pressing in, I'm just lightly making sure that it's flat to the project, okay? Then what I am going to do is take a piece of twine. Okay. And I am going to just lightly, again, I do not want to press into the clay. However, I do want it to stay and dry in place okay, just very ever so lightly. And I want it to dry in place so that it fits perfectly to the jar when it's dry. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and let that dry and then move on to the next step. So like I said, not recommending using spray paint indoors, but I will be quick. Okay, and we are going to give these a quick coat with black chalkboard paint. Okay, that looks good to me. Just like that. So I've let this dry for literally about 5 minutes. I'm going to try this idea that I had, which is typically called a wet distress technique. And I thought, you know what, a wet distress may just work beautifully on these molds. So what I am doing is I'm taking a damp cloth, and I would recommend I'm using a paper towel. I wouldn't recommend a paper towel, but I'm honestly too lazy to get up and go find a washcloth or a rag. So I'm just going to use this, and it should be fine. But you just take the damp cloth and you lightly take away while the paint is still moist. You gently wipe on the detail. You can see how that is popping. It's removing the paint just where you're lightly rubbing, and that is popping the detail. Okay, so you see how that is, isn't that beautiful? It's just really starting to bring out all of the pretty detail in the molds, and this really is one of the funnest parts of playing with these IOD decor molds. One of our most popular decor products, and you can see why. I mean, there's just so many uses for these molds. Oh, isn't that beautiful? I really, really like that a lot. So many uses for the molds. You can use them on furniture. You can use them on craft projects. Like I said, they're silicone and they're food safe, so you can actually use these in baking. You can use these in soap making. You can use them really for just about anything because you can put any material in them. So anything you can use any mold for, you can use these. Okay, and I'm going to pop that line right there. And again, I'm being very gentle because paper clay is very lightweight, and that's a good thing, but it's also very delicate. So just be careful as you're coming in here and rubbing and popping that detail. Really like the way that turned out. It's just a beautiful vintage, lightly distressed look. It was very, very easy. I found some of the scraps left over from a project I did with one of our decor transfers. And I thought, because these adhere to glass beautifully, I thought, how gorgeous would this be on one of the mason jars behind the mold, behind the label. Okay, so we're going to give this a try. I'm kind of excited about this. You want to be working with a clean, dry surface when you adhere your transfer. These transfers come in ginormous sizes with these beautiful designs. So you can use them on furniture, on walls, on large projects. You can look on our website for other project ideas with these decor transfers, but they are amazing and they adhere like a dream. Okay, so here we go. They stick really quickly and easily on glass, okay? So just be mindful of that. Oh yeah, that's gonna be really nice. Okay. It's a little bit tricky on these parts right there, so I'm gonna tackle those later. And I did not grab there is a transfer stick that comes with your transfer. I'm going to be using a pencil. That is beautiful. What do you guys think? Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? And I chose to use a glue gun with just a clear glue stick for gluing these onto the glass jars. If you're gluing the molds onto wood, you would use wood glue. If you're gluing them onto a surface that's going to get moisture, you would want to use something appropriate for that. You really just want to use whatever glue is correct for the project. The molds will be fine with almost any glue. I honestly can't think of a glue they would not be okay with. So that we get that question a lot. What kind of glue do I use to glue the molds down? And it's really whatever's appropriate for the surface you're gluing them to. Okay, so here we go. Perfect. And I'm gonna just put a nice, you don't need a lot. Okay, you really don't need a lot to keep it on there. I think I'm going to have to get another stick for the other ones. Okay. And just gently pressing. All right. Making sure it's adhering okay. Beautiful. All right, guys. Isn't that pretty? We're going to embellish the lids next. Okay, so after going back and forth as to what I would do with the lid, I decided to go with simple because my jars have so much going on. And I simply gave them a coat of white chalk paint or mineral-based paint, chalk style paint. There's different brands, and really any one that you want and any color that you want is probably going to work just fine. I chose a pure white here, and as you can see, I just went right over the metal. I'll just quickly demonstrate here. And I literally just brushed it on, simple as this. Okay. You do need to be careful that you don't get, see how I got a little buildup in there? I am going to use a towel to quickly wipe that out because that is the area that's going to screw on, so you don't want paint buildup in large chunks there. Okay, and I smudged it a little, no biggie. Just feather that out. Just like that, okay? It looks a bit of a mess right now, but by the time I put the glaze on it, after it dries, and give it a little bit of distress, it's going to be quite pretty. All right, I am going to go ahead and glaze my lid just to give it a little more depth and texture, like I said. I am using this Pure Home glaze, but honestly you can use so many different things as a glaze. Sorry, that's my dog snorting. You can use acrylic paint and just add water to it. I've done that many, many times, especially if I'm looking for a specific color. But I had this on hand and it happens to be the color that I think I want. So I'm going to go with it. And this is just kind of a translucent color wash is basically what you're looking for. Okay, and I just lightly rub it on. My undercoat is dry, and just give it a little brush coat there. Doesn't really matter how heavy you go on. Obviously you don't want to be sloppy and you want to have even coverage, but it's really pretty foolproof when you're putting this glaze on. Some of that though will depend on the type of glaze that you use and how much pigment is in it, so how translucent and forgiving it is. Okay, and then I'm just going to take my rag, starting with the lid that has had the glaze on it the longest. I'm just going to wipe the glaze off. And I'm using a dry rag because I don't want to pick up too much of the glaze off. I want to leave a good amount on there. Okay, so I'm going to just maybe pat that out a little bit so it's not such a harsh line. And then just like that, I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to move to this one. Lightly remove the excess glaze. And in this step, really it depends on how much glaze you want to leave on there to let dry. You can wipe off most of it. If you use a damp rag, then you will get more of it off. Or you can, just like I am, I'm leaving quite a bit on there because I want it to look vintage, and I like the the look that it's giving me with leaving more on there. So I'm going to leave the rest just like that and let that dry. Alright guys, so there you have it. There is my DIY handmade holiday gift from a mason jar. I think it's lovely. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I hope you attempt one yourself. I think you'll be really pleased with it. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas, and I'll see you in the next video.